Do you ever feel like you're stuck in the same painful loop with the narcissist in your life and you're not sure how to get out of that cycle? Today, we're going to dive deep into the cycle of narcissistic abuse, how it starts, how it traps you, and how you can break free. Breaking the cycle is not as simple as it sounds. So we're going to get into a lot in this video. So welcome back to the channel. I'm Coach Adriana and I am a fellow survivor of narcissistic abuse after surviving a lifetime of narcissistic abuse from my late narcissistic mother, suffering from 4 years of physical chronic pain as a result of the repressed emotions from my childhood trauma, and dealing with so many other narcissists in my life, exes, friends, workplaces, etc. I decided to make it my mission to heal once and for all. And once I recovered from the physical pain by doing the emotional work, I realized that I can actually help people with healing from narcissistic abuse. And long story short, this is why I do what I do. This is why I'm a coach. My goal is to empower other fellow survivors to heal, set boundaries, and live life on their own terms as well. Let's dive in and let's get your shift together. The sooner you understand the cycle of abuse and recognize the cycle of abuse as it's playing out and how it has played out in the past, the more clarity you're going to gain. And I think after you watch this video, you're going to really recognize how that cycle of abuse has been affecting you. Even if you haven't realized it, you're going to realize it by the end of this video. So when you are caught up in a cycle of narcissistic abuse, it feels like you're on a roller coaster of emotions. Nothing makes sense. Sometimes things are great. Sometimes things are horrible. Everything is just an absolute shit show. You may have heard me say this in other videos that if you are confused, you're being abused, because narcissists love to confuse their targets because people who are confused are easier to control. And what better way to create confusion than with the cycle of abuse? So let's get into it. The three main steps of the cycle of abuse are love bomb, devalue, discard. If you look online, you might find other people posting cycles of abuse with like all these sections throughout the whole thing. But honestly, I find that very confusing, and I'm not here to confuse you. I'm here to give you clarity. And I just find that when information about narcissistic abuse recovery is put out in such a way where it's so confusing for the person receiving the information who's literally going through the abuse, like how is that helpful? So I like to simplify things. And if you want a more complicated explanation of these types of concepts, this is probably not the channel for you. But if you want things explained in a concise, simplified way where you'll be able to understand it if you're actually paying attention, then I look forward to helping you understand the cycle of abuse. So like I said, love bomb, devalue, discard. We're going to start with love bombing. And let's talk about what the goal of love bombing is. It's to hook you in. It's to gain your trust. And so a narcissist in the love bombing stage is going to be decent. They're going to be nice to you. If it's like a new romantic partner, potentially, they might go to these great lengths and efforts in order to hook you in. They might profess their undying love for you at the beginning. They might say that you're twin flames, you're soulmates, all these promises for the future, etc. And they ultimately will do this so you like them. And then you trust them, because you are not going to trust somebody who you do not like. So during the love bombing stage, they're going to be great. They're going to be agreeable. They are going to mirror you. They're going to pretend they have the exact same interests as you. They're going to pretend you have so much in common. That's another way to gain somebody's trust. If the narcissist in your life is not a family member, and they had to, introduce themselves to you, they probably painted themselves out to be such a wonderful person. Imagine if this person introduced themselves as like, hey, I'm like the biggest piece of shit ever. I'm going to ruin your life. I cannot wait to start messing with your mind. It's going to be so much fun. Are you on board? You would have ran for the freaking hills. You know what I mean? So you have to keep in mind that narcissists are not going to explain their manipulation tactics to you and be honest about their intentions, because that would literally defeat the whole purpose of manipulation, right? If there is a thief and they see that your purse is open, your wallet is sticking out, is this person going to come over you and nicely warn you that like, hey, your wallet's sticking out of your purse, you might want to, close your purse up before I steal your wallet? No, they're just gonna steal your wallet from you, and they don't care. This is exactly what love bombing is like. They know that their intention is not to be like this consistently. They know their intention is to abuse you, but they're going to be nice to you so that they stay undetected for as long as possible. And now, if you have a narcissistic parent or, a sibling or family member, and, they didn't have to go through that first initial, like, nice to meet you kind of conversation with you, they would not have had to, they wouldn't have had to like go through that first initial grand gesture because they don't have to. You're just there. You don't get to pick your family. You don't get to pick your parents. You just happen to be there, right? Lucky us, So they don't need to do that grand gesture. And so for a family member, the love bombing might look very, very subtle, but we'll get into that. What you have to understand about love bombing is that this is literally abuse. This is where the abuse starts. This is where the abuse continues, because it's not just one cycle of abuse that you're ever going to go through with any given narcissist. It's going to repeat over and over and over again. You might even go through a cycle of abuse in one conversation. And the other thing to recognize is that the persona that they are presenting to you during the love bombing stage is fake. This is all an act. This is done to gain your trust. There is no other purpose to love bombing than to literally just get into your head, gain your trust, so they can start treating you like shit. And covert narcissists will love bomb quite a bit, but they might not do it very obviously. And they really cycle through the love bombing a lot because that helps them to stay undetected as an abuser. When you're remembering the good times in the relationship with the narcissist, you're actually remembering the love bombing stage or stages. And again, it's lies, it's bullshit. It's an act. You love this person that they have portrayed themselves to be, but it's a fake person. And narcissistic parents, they literally train their children from early on to be an extension of themselves. So again, there may not have been a huge issue, especially if you have a narcissistic parent. You might have noticed there's not like a huge issue until you turned a certain age, right? When you were like a very small child, you might even think you had a great childhood and, you were happy as a kid and all that. But the thing is, you didn't have a personality or your own opinions yet. And so it was a lot easier for your narcissistic parent to manipulate you. So things were probably good or okay. Things probably didn't start getting noticeably bad until you became a teenager, when you started rebelling and having a personality and, starting to become your own person and all that fun stuff. And narcissistic parents, they still will love bomb their adult children. They might make these promises of, looking after the grandkids, or, helping you with a down payment on your house, or buying you a car, or we're going to go on that family vacation, or they'll compliment you on a talent of yours that they never recognized before. They might even just agree with you. They might be nice to you over like this random thing that you weren't expecting them to be nice to you over. And that's the bait. That's exactly what they know they need to say to you to get you to trust them. And then it turns into the cycle of abuse. So now that we've covered love bombing, let's talk about stage 2 of the cycle of abuse, which is devaluation. And the goal of devaluation is to keep you dysregulated and producing supply. Supply is the narcissist's main goal. I might make a separate video just talking more in depth about what narcissistic supply is, but in a nutshell, narcissistic supply is your emotional reaction, your time, your energy, your words, your engagement, you going in these circular conversations with this person. Basically, any energy and attention that you exert towards the narcissist is what they're feeding off of, and that is exactly why you're exhausted after you talk to the narcissist in your life, because they are literally energy vampires. They are sucking your energy from you. And this is time, energy, and effort that you probably could have used towards something else in your life. But the narcissist has dominated your mind and your space and your time and your energy, because it gives them a little ego kick. I know the concept of supply sounds really weird and really random and ridiculous, and that's because it is, right? Like, this is not like a life goal that any normal person would aspire to get supply from other people. Like, I have way more other things that I can think of how I could enjoy my time other than getting an emotional reaction out of people. But what you have to recognize with narcissists is you're not dealing with normal, healthy people. You're dealing with narcissists, and this is how they operate. So you can disagree with this all you want, but the more that you try to resist the truth and resist understanding that, like, there's nothing to understand, like, it's really that dumb, it's really that sadistic, it's really that insane, and this is really their goal, the sooner you're going to gain more clarity and start healing. And so the devaluation is where the abuse appears to be abuse, but you have to recognize, like I said before, love bombing is abuse because the intention behind it is to gain your trust so that they can devalue you. So as soon as they're satisfied that they have gained your trust, this is where they start treating you like crap. They might start insulting you. They might start undermining your intelligence. They might start, saying all these terrible things about you. They might, you might not have as much in common with them as you had during the love bombing stage. And a lot of the things they said during the love bombing starts to contradict their behavior and the words that they're saying now in the devaluation stage. And, narcissistic parents, they might tell you like, you're useless, you're this, you're that. I can't believe you're the final product of what I raised, all that kind of stuff. And the main way to understand if you are in the devaluation stage is if you're feeling the emotions of guilt, shame, or fear. I tell my clients all the time, these are the three musketeers. Anybody in those three emotional states, and we can also add on confusion, sense of obligation, and general bamboozlement to that. So, there's 6 emotional states. Anybody in those states is easier to control. Imagine if you weren't in those states, you'd be able to have all the clarity in the world and you would recognize like, oh, this is manipulation, I'm out. But when you are in that bubble of the emotion, it's so hard to see it. And confusion is always a sign that you are being abused. I tell my clients all the time, if you're confused, you're being abused. And the cycle of abuse is so confusing because they're nice to you in the love bombing, then they're mean to you in the devaluation. And that brings me to part 3 of the cycle of abuse, which is the discard. So this is where they leave you alone for a period of time. And it's like you're dead to each other, right? Like they basically treat you like you're nothing, you never existed. And the discard might last 5 years. It might last 5 minutes. It might last 5 days, just depends on the circumstances. The discard can also be very subtle. It can be you go to bed angry and they don't resolve whatever it is that, they picked a fight with you over. And then you wake up the next morning, and it's like as if nothing ever happened. And that's love bombing, and that cycle repeats. Another thing to understand about narcissists is that they have a collection of people. They are always on the hunt for new sources of supply. This might be other family members. This could be friends. This could be coworkers. They don't necessarily all cheat on their significant other. They might have a significant other who's their main supply, and then a friend who's like the secondary supply. And if things don't work out with the romantic partnership, they'll find someone else. Sometimes they do cheat. Sometimes they don't. It's, we can't put a blanket statement, but sometimes the ones that don't cheat, they'll be like so braggy about how like loyal and monogamous they are and all that kind of stuff. And then they'll use that as a way to love bomb and gain your trust. And like, it's hard to find a good person, da 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 da. But meanwhile, behind closed doors, they're actually treating you like crap. If you have been discarded by a narcissist and like they have actually left you alone for a period of time, like longer than, several days to weeks, months, etc., if things do not work out with the new supply, right? When they completely leave you alone, they are immersed in the new supply, in their new target. And so if things don't work out with that person, chances are they're going to come right back to you. That brings us to the hoovering part, which is what restarts the cycle of abuse. And so it can be different with narcissistic parents, but they still do discard if you're like super firm in your boundaries. Let's say you go no contact, you stick to no contact, you might not hear from them for years. And then all of a sudden, like it'll be a random birthday or Christmas, like 7 years later, and they send you this weird entitled email that like they need to talk to you immediately or whatever. And that's a hoover. And so that's pretty much in a nutshell, the cycle of abuse: love bomb, devalue, discard. Then we've got hoovering, and that's where they suck you back in like a vacuum. That's why it's named that. I don't name these things, but that's what it's called. And so it really depends on the nature of your relationship with whoever the given narcissist in your life is. So they're more than likely going to love bomb you as a way to hoover you. So again, we start that cycle over again. Love bomb, right? They say what they need to say to gain your trust, to rope you back into the relationship, to rope you back into the dynamic. And then again, once they're satisfied, they've gained your trust, they devalue you. They might hoover you with devaluation as well, right? They might say like they're going to spread your secrets. They're going to threaten a smear campaign, whatever. And this is to put you in an emotionally bamboozled state where you're terrified of the consequences of not responding. And so therefore you end up out of fear talking to the narcissist again, so they don't spread your secrets or, whatever you're worried they're going to do. And chances are they probably have already been doing what they said they were going to do, but they've manipulated you into interacting with them so that they can continue that cycle of abuse with you and keep getting supply from you and, draining you of your energy. And another time that you can definitely expect a Hoover would be a holiday, a birthday, when somebody dies, anything. They can use anything as a Hoover. There could be, something's happening in your town and they'll call you because of that. They might Hoover you and they might call you up and say like, "Oh, is it true that you did X, Y, and Z? Like, isn't that so weird that someone's saying that?" That could be a Hoover, right? Anything that's going to pique your interest in responding to them is a Hoover. But love bombing is going to be the most likely thing. They might say they changed, right? That they know that all you want is for them to change and they don't actually change, but they're going to pretend that they're going to change, or they're going to pretend that they did get therapy and help and whatever. And that again is to gain your trust, because chances are, if they're telling you that they've changed or they're going to change, chances are they know that you want them to change so badly. And just hearing those words from this person can be enough to suck you back in, and they will be successful with their hoovering. They might guilt you as well and, say that they can't live without you, or, they've done some reflecting, they see where they went wrong, and they kind of make you feel like you'll be a horrible person if you don't respond to them, because, what kind of heartless person doesn't respond to this person that, was such an important, significant part of their life. And, particularly with narcissistic parents, it's like, "I'm your mother. How could you abandon your mother like this?" Right? So again, guilt, shame, and fear, the three musketeers. They might send you gifts. They might mail you gifts during holidays or birthdays and expect a response, right? Because they know that if they can get your attention and you respond, they can suck you back into a cycle of abuse. So that in a nutshell is pretty much the cycle of abuse. I just wanted to make a quick video just outlining how the cycle works. And you can literally have a cycle of abuse in one conversation, like in one sentence. Like the narcissist might send you a message that says something along the lines of, "Hey, so and so, this thing about you is so great," or, "I'm so happy that, we did this," or whatever, love bomb. But, right, there's always a devaluation after the but. "I don't appreciate how, you did this, this, and that, and therefore I can never talk to you again," discard. But please respond because I want to resolve this, love bomb, right? So there's literally, the cycle of abuse can be so subtle. And I was actually talking to a client today about how love bombing itself can be so subtle. And I'm going to make a video very soon, probably right after this one, about subtle signs of love bombing that you might overlook and not necessarily recognize as love bombing, but it is love bombing. That's it for today. If you are interested in learning more about the cycle of abuse and how narcissists operate, I do have an amazing community membership that you can get started in for less than $1 per day. And there is an audio course available to all tiers of that community called How a Narcissist's Mind Works. And you'll be able to learn so much more about narcissists, how they operate, how they manipulate, all that great stuff. Just check out the link in the description to learn more and get started today. I look forward to seeing you in the community if you do decide to join. And also at that link in the description below, there are other resources. You can take my free quiz. You can check out all my other offerings, one-on-one coaching, group coaching, all that great stuff. I am opening up a new round of my 12-week bulletproof small group coaching program for anyone who is interested. You can submit an application at the link in the description as well. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave a comment. Feel free to make any suggestions for other videos that you'd like to see on this channel in the future. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.